to the Rippy Effect. I'm Jackie Hunter, your host, and since this is our first season, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the reason for the show. But before I tell you, I'd like to just welcome Michael Hall.
Thank you.
Michael is a chemical engineer, and he is a scientist like many of my guests. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this show is because I'm very concerned about the cost of college education. So many young people are coming out of college in debt, and they can't even find a job in the career that they have majored in. So I'm encouraging young people to major in STEM careers. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics careers. There's a lot of scholarship money available. And there are good jobs available now and will be available in the future. And what I do on this show is I interview scientists like Michael, doctors and other people involved in STEM careers, and hopefully someone out there in the audience will see a career that it interests them and pursue it. And so Michael is, as I said earlier, a chemical engineer. And Michael, exactly what is a chemical engineer?
Okay. Well, first I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to be on your show, and appreciate the opportunity to share some information about chemical engineering in my career. I'm a graduate of the University of Rochester. So I have a Bachelor's of Science in chemical engineering. And what we do in chemical engineering is that we take information from the laboratory, there may be chemists, and we develop processes to produce goods that everybody uses. So we go into a lot more in-depth than in chemistry. You may have a person working in a lab, working up some formulations. So what we'll do as chemical engineers is that we'll take a look at that process and say, hey, on a larger scale, what are we doing? We may need a vessel to perform a chemical reaction, which will give us a product. So it's just not, well, we put things into a reactor. You have to know what the reaction rate is, what the material is, so you can design the reactor with the proper materials of construction. You have to look at the safety features. You have to look at heat transfer. The process may need heat. You may need to take energy away from that process. So just about all products that you can think of, chemical engineering has taken place. Paint.
That's a good example. I remember in my research reading that chemical engineering is the mother of all engineering. And I can see why you would say that, considering that everything is made of some kind of chemicals, molecules, and atoms. I would think that that would be a part of it too.
Yes. Yeah, we look at it all.
The molecular structure of things.
Yeah. So we may not get that in depth in terms of the molecular. Well, no, I take that back. In terms of molecular structure, because I'm involved in some work in my current position now. I'm in process safety, and we have to look at the different processes that we have and determine what the inherent hazards are with that process. You have issues such as flammability, toxicity, pressure volume concerns. You have explosivity. And there's a myriad of factors that we take into account. In my position, over my career, I've worked in the polyester manufacturing business. So I've been a process engineer. Basically, we have a production line. We have to keep the production line working. We work on projects to make the products improve the quality, make it faster, make it safer, to impact our business.
It sounds like you're doing an awful lot of problem solving. That's always how I always have seen an engineer's position. You look at the problems and then you think about how you're going to solve it. And in your case, since you're working with chemistry, you're looking at the chemicals and thinking about how you can solve it. Are you also involved in, say, figuring out the cost of what the
Yes. Yes, I'm involved in major capital projects. And in those projects, I have to scope out, of course, what the number one, what is it that we're trying, what's the problem that we're trying to solve?
Right.
And then, work our way backwards. What type of equipment do we need? What type of instrumentation? What type of control system would we need? And all those things add up. And we have to present it in a manner that's going to justify investing that capital into the business. There has to be some type of business gain. Be that we're in a better relationship with the customer, could we provide them with a better quality material,
Right.
or a certain specified material for their application.
Right.
We're making it with a cost reduction, or we're improving the safety.
I was just thinking just that as you were talking about improving the safety situation. That's very, very interesting. So actually what you're doing, you're using your science background and your mathematics background, and you're having to use your ability to write out a description of what has to be done and present it in a way. So young people, when you are in school and you're thinking about becoming a scientist, you just cannot focus on science only. You have to focus on the mathematics and the language skills and writing and communicating. All of that's a very important part of being an engineer. Can you give them some suggestions for other things that they can do, young people can do in their school career to prepare them for, say, a science career in engineering, especially in chemical engineering?
Sure. Well, I'll start off with myself. I might be an oddity since I've always liked, since I was in elementary school, I've always liked science. I had like a rock collection. My parents thought I was interested in chemistry. So they bought me, I guess, back then, the old Gilbert chemistry sets.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, test tubes, I had to mix stuff up and was just curious about it.
Before you go any further, how old were you when you started with the chemical labs and stuff like that? Do you know?
I was probably 6 or 7.
Great. And you know something? I have read that if you can get a young person started with their chemical labs, their microscopes or whatever.
Yeah, I had a microscope.
If you can get it with them when they're on the elementary level,
Yeah.
you might have a scientist in your family.
Yeah, I had a microscope. We'd get pond water and look at the little bugs and stuff, swimming around. But what I would suggest, if you have an interest in science, technology, engineering, or math, get some information, on your own. Develop some good, develop good study habits, because you're going to have to work. You're going to have to work to get your degree, but it's well worth it. I tell young people, I graduated a number of years ago, and it still pays today. Very, very well. And you can do a lot of things, with that degree. But say, if you have a natural curiosity, you have a natural interest first, to build upon that, try to get some direction on which area that you'd like to get into, and talk to people that you may know in the industry, or there are lots of organizations where students in high school can interact with professionals.
That's great. Yeah. That's great to know. That's wonderful.
And the country needs more people.
Yes, I know that.
Right now we're importing. There's a dearth of people getting into the STEM career, so the United States has to import people from other countries to come here. But we have a lot of people here, so get into it.
Right. And from what I understand, there's a lot of scholarship money available too. Even if you want a degree on your you want a bachelor's degree, a master's, and even a doctorate degree, there's money available. So why find yourself in so much debt and can't even find a good job? A good job would be waiting for you if you decide to become an engineer.
We're at the forefront of, say, of energy right now. Up until maybe, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, there was a natural gas shortage. Well, there wasn't enough, not a shortage. Well, depending upon, I guess, how the economist speaks,
Right.
there wasn't enough to meet demand.
Right.
So they came up with a process to get more natural gas, which now natural gas supplies more power, is more available, less impact on the environment than coal. So chemical engineers were involved in that.
Wow.
Were involved in that process of extracting gas from the reserves.
Engineers are the problem solvers in the world. It's great. One thing that you mentioned was it's very important to develop very good study habits.
Yeah.
Could you give the young people out there some ideas about how to study? What would be considered good study habits?
Yeah, good study habits doesn't involve staying up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you can say that again. It doesn't.
It does not involve
Right.
that. You have to set up, you have to schedule, you have to discipline yourself to set aside time for each subject that you're studying and make a plan. And those habits will carry you carry that throughout your career, because once you obtain a job and start your career, you have to perform for your employer. So you become your employer first by your job is to study. Well, that's your business. Your business is to study, to get good grades, to understand the material that's being taught,
Right.
so that you can then take that knowledge that you've acquired and your skills to go out and do great things.
And another thing that I would suggest too is when you start your class in September and your teacher gives you a syllabus, take a look at what's on that syllabus and go through the book and read over it, skim through it. Write down some questions that you might have as you're looking through the areas that they want you to focus on, so that when they're lecturing, you can ask those questions or see if those questions are answered for you. It'll be a real big help.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. And just one more point also, even if you're in junior high or high school now, again, with the internet, you can get any kind of information that you want.
That is so
Interested
true.
for chemical engineering, I'm a member of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. You could go to that website and they have information for students that are interested in getting into chemical engineering.
Wow.
So you can
Okay.
you can browse and read information. You can contact people in the industry and get all your questions answered. You could see what's the daily life of an engineer, what types of projects they work on.
That sounds great. Is it chemicalengineering.com or what would it be?
No, it's AICHE, www.aiche.com. That's AICHE.com. Or just type in American Institute of Chemical Engineers, and then that site will come up.
Well, you know something? I'm going to go to that
Sure.
site because it sounds very interesting, very
Yeah.
exciting.
And for the other engineering disciplines, they have similar associations also.
Okay, that's great to know. Now, another thing that I tell young people is it's so important to look around for good role models. And who was your role model when you were growing up?
Well, I guess it would be my father. When my father told me, I guess he had studied, both my parents encouraged me. I think my father had studied chemistry, for a couple of years. But he got married. We had a family and all. But my parents instilled in me. They encouraged me. Things that I was interested in.
Right.
My mother purchased a high school chemistry book when I was in like the 5th grade, and I still have that book today. And I was interested in it. I read it. I made gunpowder. I was like the.
That's one thing I don't encourage. You
talk to kids I grew up with today, they'll tell you I was like the neighborhood mad scientist. That's what they would say. So.
I like what your mother did. As a teacher, I know I've had some parents say, well, I don't want to rush my child. You're not rushing your child when your child has abilities.
Yeah.
It's okay to hand them a book your mother handed you a high school book when you were in 5th grade, and you loved it, you ate it up. So don't hold your children back.
No.
That's really...
The time is now.
Right, if they are interested in it, put it in front of them. If they're not interested in it,
Sure.
they won't bother it.
Yeah, you're investing in your child.
Exactly.
You invest in them at an early age, and
Exactly.
the returns will compound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll make you a very happy parent in the end, right?
Yeah, I think I've exceeded my parents' expectations.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
always good to be in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Another thing I say to young people is mentors. Mentors are very, very important. And did you have a mentor when you were in high school or in college?
I guess in high school, maybe my chemistry teacher. And college, not so much. We had counselors,
Right.
but not so much, not so much a mentor.
What is one thing that you learned from your mentor that you would want to take with you throughout your life?
Well, what I was, just to make number one, to plan things out. That's one thing I see today that's always, whatever path you go down to have the most success, you should have a plan.
That's a great lesson.
You know, some people will say, well, plans can fail. Well, I guess the saying is people fail to plan, people that fail to plan to fail.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I also believe in planning. It's very important.
Yeah.
And it's better to have a plan and find that
habits.
maybe it didn't work out than to not have a plan. And
Yeah.
of course you have nowhere to go. Nowhere to
Yeah.
go if you have no plan at all.
No, that applies to anything. If it's a career in STEM, or if you're going to be paying bills monthly, you need to
You have to have a
plan.
plan, right. And I think it's very important too, if you have a plan or a goal, sometimes it's important to even set a deadline for yourself. I'm going to learn how to learn this chapter with the concepts that are in this chapter, and I'm going to have them, I'm going to know them by the end of the week, so I can have the weekend to go to the movies, plan like that. Short-term plans can
Also-
be good too as for a
Yeah.
teenager.
And in school, as you take your courses, never never hesitate to ask for never hesitate to ask for help. If it's
That's true.
Your professors or their I don't know what they call them now, the
Instructors.
yeah, that help the professors. Never be never be afraid to hesitate to ask for help. If you
Right.
make some friends in the class, you can share share information.
Oh, that's a great idea. And I always tell students that no question is a silly question.
Yeah.
No question is. So ask questions so that you can get the help you need, whether it is from your teacher, your professor, your parents, or, as you said, your classmates, whoever is able to do really well.
Yeah.
And work together. Don't be afraid to do that. I know as an engineer, you find yourself working with teams a lot too, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we have to work with teams. There are people on different levels. People that operate the machines, people that are managers, people that give out the money for projects.
Right.
So develop good communication skills. Be able to talk to everybody,
That's great.
because you're going to need to have their input to be successful.
I agree. Do you have any last words for the young people out there who might be considering chemical engineer?
Yeah, if you're interested in chemical engineering, any type of engineering, take a look at the information that's on the internet. Ask and see if you have any friends or family that may have that type of career, and study, get all the information you can, and just think about what would you like to be doing 10 years from this point. I graduated from school a number of years ago. It pays very well, and I enjoy the work,
Great.
and can't beat that.
great advice.
Yeah.
And as you said, I have also read that out of the top 10 jobs that pay very well, engineering is among the top 10.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to consider that. Now, my next guest is Miss Jane Bono. Jane is a chemist. And the reason why I'm doing the interview with Jane today is because I wanted people to compare what a chemist does to what a chemical engineer does. And I found out that there are a lot of similarities, but now we'll be right back with Miss Jane Bono. Welcome back to the Rippy Effect. Tonight we have with us Miss Jane Bono, who is a chemist, and I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Jackie.
Thank you so much for coming. And Miss Bono works with
Ashland Specialty Ingredients. It is a maker of different chemicals in Hopewell, Virginia. We make products that go into other products. You probably would never have heard of them. They are used as binders and fillers in a lot of medicines or in food products. So it's not something you would ever notice taking, except for the fact that if you take a pill and you hold it in your hand, what you're really holding mostly is our product, not the active ingredient. So that's what we make. But it's very important that we make it right so that it is safe for you to take, and so that the medicine that you take is exactly right for you as well. So that's what we make, and we make it very carefully.
It sounds very interesting. What school did you go to?
Well, I got my undergraduate degree in chemistry from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. It's not a big chemistry department there, but it was very good. It was a very thorough education in the groundings of chemistry, organic chemistry, and physical chemistry. Most of what I do as far as chemistry now is what would be considered chemical engineering, and I got some background of that from the University of Maryland. I took some classes there. They're very nearby geographically. Chemical engineering is not that different from physical chemistry, so I have a broad background in a lot of different areas of chemistry. What we do at our plant, we have 6,000-gallon reactors. We put a couple chemicals in, another couple set of chemicals in, time, pressure, we end up with a whole new chemical. It's a reaction, chemical reaction taking place. And we make sure after that we purify it, and then we have it ready to sell to our customers.
Wow, that sounds very, very interesting. I know that there are probably some young people watching the show right now who might be interested in going into the field of chemistry. Excuse me. Can you give them some advice as to what they might be doing as a student in, say, high school?
Most people who are going into the sciences take a high school chemistry class. Some of those classes, you go over some very basic concepts about chemistry. You usually do some little experiments, but those things are the building blocks for all of chemistry, and it goes from there, from the very simple things that you might learn about pH and that sort of thing, to everything else that all builds one on top of the other. Everything from organic chemistry to biochemistry, and then even into chemical manufacturing. It's all built on top, one on top of the other. Once you understand the basic principles, the rest follows along. And I go back to some of my high school chemistry even now and say, okay, you have an acid and a base, you're going to get a salt, and it's going to give off energy. That's something I learned in high school, and I still have to remind people of that same fact.
When you were in high school, did you think you want to become a scientist?
You know what, Jackie? I decided in 3rd grade I wanted to be a scientist.
Oh, wow.
So it was back in the day, and the teacher asked everybody what their parents did, and one of the other students said his father was a scientist, and I went, scientist? That sounds really cool. I want to be a scientist. And I didn't know what kind of scientist I wanted to be, but I just said, that sounds really cool. And so I just studied a lot of different things about sciences, and it wasn't really till I was in college that I settled on chemistry.
Okay.
And I found it fascinating in my freshman year of chemistry, and I just went that path.
Okay, that's interesting, very interesting. I was going to ask you what classes, but you've already told me that. And how long does it take to become a chemist? You spent 4 years in college.
4 years in college, and after that I got a job as a chemist.
Okay.
I had worked as a lab assistant during college. I worked at National Institutes of Health in a lab doing biochemistry experiments under the direction of chemists, but doing a lot of the test tube work and that sort of thing. So I had experience of doing that sort of thing. And then after I graduated, I worked at what is now, well, it's still it's a medical school associated with Bethesda Naval. Well, it's Walter Reed now, but it's a military medical school, and I worked in a lab there.
Okay.
So moved on there, and then I've worked in various places. Now my role is not so much a bench chemist. I work in the regulatory department, so I work on making sure that our products meet regulations worldwide. So we sell our product around the world, and there's lots of different regulations about where they go as far as meeting the regulations for their specifications and for how they're made wherever they're sold.
Okay. Earlier you were telling me that young people who are interested in getting into the science field should probably get into an internship.
Yes, I would say, if you are interested in any science field, one of the best ways to find out whether your inclination is appropriate, and probably one of the things that helped me in college was that job I had at NIH, because I loved that lab work. I really did. It was fascinating finding out, doing those tests and finding out the results and finding out whether it proved or didn't prove a particular theory. That was just wonderful and interesting to me. And so that's where getting an internship or a work study experience like that can really help you understand, this is the kind of job for me, or perhaps it's not, or maybe you might want to change a path. Those things are really good to do, and you can start that internship or shadowing at even an earlier age, like middle school or high school. You can go shadow if you're interested in being not just a chemist, but say a doctor or a dentist. You can go shadow a dentist. You can do that sort of thing.
What a great
or
idea.
Doctor, if you're interested, just see what they do. And it's a good thing to try. You can find out, well, gee, it sounds so romantic to be a doctor. And then you find out, oh, they have to deal with sick people.
And it's a lot of hard work, too. Yeah.
It happens.
Who was your role model? Did you know of any women who were involved in science?
I've grown up with a lot of people in science. My mother actually had a degree in physics. And so, she was, once I said I wanted to be a scientist, she encouraged me a lot.
That's great, because so many girls don't get that kind of encouragement.
And so just helped me, and, it was one of those things where I think she understood that to be in any of the sciences, you had to have a good grounding in math. So she was very good at making sure that I had a good understanding of all of my math skills. So that was very helpful.
So math is very important in chemistry, isn't it?
Math is very important in all of the sciences. They call it the queen of the sciences, believe it or not.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes. So that's my plug for math.
Okay. Do you have any last words for young people who are interested in a career in chemistry?
I will tell you, overall, I think jobs in the sciences are always going to be there. They're always going to be relatively well paying, and employers are looking for people to work in those fields and will continue to look for people to work in those fields. And that is something that might not sound so exciting to a kid in school right now, but career-wise over the long term, that's an important thing to think about, because having that income come to you every week or every other week is really important to you. So thinking about, well, this is something I can do and I like doing, and that it's going to actually give me a paycheck is a wonderful thing to think about.
I agree.
So that's my last piece of advice. Look for a job
Very-
that you like to do and pays you money.
Very good advice, too. So, girls, if you're interested in math and science, think about what Miss Bono has said. There are lots of jobs available, and guess what? There's lots of scholarship money available, too. STEM programs. The Department of Defense has scholarship money, and NASA also. You don't have to be an astronaut. There are other fields that NASA will sponsor you in. And there's money available to get a master's degree, to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctorate degree. So if you want to become a scientist, listen to what Miss Bono said. We'll be right back.